The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has ordered a full-scale national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal. Announcing it on his way to Canada, the Prime Minister has made a dramatic reversal with his government's position at the start of this year and will now accept the prime recommendation of Baroness Casey from her review, her national audit, ordered by the government earlier this year. Now, crucially, the Prime Minister said that the inquiry will be statutory, which will mean that it will have powers to compel witnesses to give evidence and are independent of government. The inquiry will be similar in terms of powers to compel witnesses to the ongoing inquiry into the Post Office Horizon scandal, which has seen executives and ministers grilled in front of TV cameras. Many of the cases in this grooming gang scandal involved Pakistani heritage men raping white children, predominantly girls. Concerns about the grooming gang scandal have been highlighted repeatedly by GBNews since we were founded 4 years ago today. Now, this inquiry will, according to reports, examine the issue of perpetrators' race and allegations of a cover-up by authorities who were not keen to inflame racial tensions. Now, Sir Keir Starmer has made this announcement while speaking to political journalists en route to the G7 meeting of world leaders in Canada. Mr. Starmer said that he had asked Casey's position when she started the audit in January was that there was not a real need for a national inquiry over and above what was going on. The Prime Minister said she has looked at the material she has come to the view that there should be a national inquiry on the basis of what she has seen. He said, "I have read every single word of her report and I am going to accept her recommendation. That is the right thing to do on the basis of what she has put in her audit." Now, the Prime Minister also said that I asked her to do that job to double check on this. She has done that job for me, and having read her report, I respect her in any event. The Prime Minister said I shall now implement her recommendations. Now, Sir Keir Starmer said that the national inquiry would be statutory under the Inquiries Act. That will take a bit of time to sort out exactly how that works, and we will set that out in an orderly way. Now, Mr. Starmer's announcement has come after GBNews revealed in 2023 that over 50 different towns and cities have been affected by this national scandal. Now, this channel has repeatedly championed survivors' voices, the voices of victims, their families, and the campaigners who have promoted their cause for many years. And Alex, I'm just going to go back to the start of this scandal. Now, reports of this sort of abuse occurred in the northwest of England from the 1960s and 1970s. But it wasn't until the 2000s when the Labour MP Anne Cryer, who was the MP for Keighley, raised concerns about schoolgirls being targeted outside school gates, that there was a first national reckoning with this issue. Now, that Labour MP was attacked by her own party and government. She was derided as a racist, and the story fell silent. It was revived by a reporter at the Times called Andrew Norfolk, who was investigating crimes that were raised to him in the South Yorkshire town of Rotherham. His reporting led to an independent government-led and authorised inquiry, which was announced by Rotherham Metropolitan Borough Council and was returned in 2014. That report by Professor Alexis Jay, a social worker, found that over 1,400 children had been abused in the town by these predominantly Pakistani gangs from 1997 to 2013. Now, that report sent shockwaves around the country and indeed around the world. And then another key voice was asked to come forward and make a report. Baroness Louise Casey in 2015 filed a report into Rotherham Council, finding that the cover-up there was endemic. The entire council leadership had to resign. In the coming years, there were more reports. The Greater Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham, launched a reassurance review in the Greater Manchester Combined Authority area, first looking at Rochdale and also at Oldham. He launched those reports after a whistleblower called Maggie Oliver from Greater Manchester Police, who had resigned as a detective constable to make some allegations and reports, came forward with shocking reviews. Now, those reports also found a similar pattern of abuse that was found in Rotherham. They have already published. And we also then had similar reports in Telford in West Mercia. Now, the Telford Review, published in 2022, found that thousands of children had been abused in that town for several decades. At the same time, Professor Alexis Jay, who did the original Rotherham report, then put forward her investigation in the independent inquiry to child sexual abuse. That also returned in 2022. But many survivors and campaigners said that review and that investigation did not look at the grooming gang scandal properly. It was over 500 pages long, but it mentioned Rotherham just once. In the grooming gang section of that report was a subsection of a sub-report on organised networks. It looked at 6 areas, including Warwickshire and St Helens. None of those areas had an investigation or a crime type of a pattern that we had seen in Rotherham, in Telford, in Rochdale and in Oldham. So many thought that investigation was insufficient for looking at the grooming gang scandal. Since then, GBNews and many other outlets have been investigating this scandal. And as I said, we found over 50 different towns and cities affected by this abuse for the last 30 years. In analysis shared by this broadcaster last month, we found that there had been 400 successful prosecutions since 2000. But we also found that there had been just 1 deportation since 2011. We also found that there were widespread trafficking and organised crime networks stretching all the way from Plymouth to Glasgow. Now, since Baroness Louise Casey had her review launched in January, this channel has found consistent evidence of a nationwide cover-up. We have found new allegations from Oldham, new allegations from Telford. We have spoken to a retired police detective inspector from Bradford, who found that he was threatened with arrest when he raised concerns about abuse in that West Yorkshire town. This scandal has not gone away, and Sir Keir Starmer's announcement today is a dramatic reversal of his position since January. You'll remember that when pressure erupted on this issue, it was because GBNews revealed that the government had rejected a request from Oldham Council for a government-led independent inquiry. They felt that the previous independent report was not enough. The inquiry that was requested was rejected, and when we revealed that, it sparked widespread public outrage. Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, shared our reporting and also shared some extremely sharp and negative commentary of the government, commentary that has been disparaged widely across all sides of the political divide. But it did start a national conversation. It led to Sir Keir Starmer announcing that they would have 5 local inquiries. The government said that local inquiries were enough, that in Telford it made situations work, in Telford there was justice, and in Telford things had changed. But since then there has been more pressure, as I've said. In April, months on after they announced those local inquiries, the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper and the Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips made an update to that announcement. The Conservatives said that announcement in January had been watered down because the locally led inquiries were now going to be locally led work. They said that still 5 inquiries would happen, but they couldn't say where they would be. Now, since then, the Home Office has consistently told GBNews that there will be at least 5 inquiries. We don't know if that is still the position. But we do know now there will be a judge-led national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal being led with statutory powers.
Charlie, thank you so much for that extremely detailed report there on the crisis so far. I'd like to ask you a little bit about what this means for victims up and down the country. Of course, we also saw some of those J report recommendations recently, as much as last month, I think it was, that some of those recommendations were actually put to one side, including compensation for victims if there were to be any justice, at least. What does this mean? Will this change some of that narrative going forward?
Well, we'll see what happens next. This is a moment of severe political reaction, to be frank. I mean, speaking to survivors in the last half hour since this news was brought to us under embargo, they have been astonished to have this reaction, Alex. People are really just blown away by this announcement because you'll remember, Alex, that in January, when Sir Keir Starmer was being questioned by MPs and also being questioned by journalists in the NHS at that hospital in Epsom in Surrey, he said that people calling for a national inquiry were engaging and jumping on the bandwagon of the far right. But over the weekend, we have seen a really sudden change in stance on this. Last night, we saw the MP for Rochdale, Paul Waugh, Labour MP. He came out in favour of a national inquiry. He previously said he was open to it. Now he said we needed it. And that's because details of Baroness Casey's rapid audit, which was announced in January and was meant to take 3 months, it's now middle of June, but details were first leaked over the weekend saying that there were links between illegal immigration and this sort of abuse. And also we learnt this morning that she was concerned directly linking the ethnicity of perpetrators, that they were predominantly Pakistani, with the victims being white girls, that ethnicity was an issue. And I think, Alex, there was nervousness in Downing Street. We heard about them worried about civil unrest, but I think more importantly, there was political worry. On Wednesday, in the week coming, there was going to be an amendment to the police and crime bill put forward by the Conservatives, who were going to force another vote on that national inquiry into a grooming gang scandal. They tried that in January, and the Labour whip said you can't vote on that because it was termed a wrecking amendment to the education bill. So a few MPs, even those on the Labour benches who backed a national inquiry, didn't vote for it. However, since we've had this announcement from Baroness Louise Casey coming through the papers over the weekend, I think we're going to see more people now reacting to it. The government, I think, they did not want to have the Conservatives voting for a national inquiry after the whole country knew that Baroness Casey was going to say we need a national inquiry. So they've had to take the momentum on this.
Yeah, this is going to look like egg on the face of Keir Starmer here. This is a second big U-turn, if you include the winter fuel allowance as one of those big U-turns at least, in a very short period of time. How much trouble are Labour in with all these U-turns? And you're going to see Kemi Badenoch go out and celebrate victory. You'll have the likes of Rupert Lowe, who of course has his own private grooming gang inquiry starting as well. Is this going to look like a government completely out of touch with reality? Here's a problem for Labour, Alex. They've said consistently that a national inquiry isn't what's needed. They've said they want to do action, not yet more inquiries. But here we have the Prime Minister going for another inquiry. He's always said that we don't need one because we've already had the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse. But I think what his party and his government are now reckoning with, based on this report that we've not yet seen from Baroness Casey, is that the ICSA report wasn't enough. But Alex, I want to bring in a guest, someone I'm very, very happy to speak to now, and that's Elizabeth. She's a survivor from Rotherham. Now, she'll be joining us without being in shot because she still lives in some degree of uncertainty and fear, I would say, because she's yet to achieve full justice for all that she endured. But Elizabeth does have some successful prosecutions against some of the men who abused her as a child in that South Yorkshire town. Elizabeth, I've spoken to you countless times about this issue over the years. You were a part of the documentary that we broadcast 2 years ago on this issue that kick-started such a strong reaction to this issue in politics at the time. How do you feel there is going to now be this national inquiry that you've wanted for, well, decades?
Yeah, I'm quite speechless, to be honest. I weren't expecting it at all. You know, it has come as a shock.
I'm sure it has. But Elizabeth, when we've spoken in the past, you've always said that this isn't just a Rotherham issue where you're from. People were trafficked all around the country. I mean, we've worked together looking into a period that you endured where you were trafficked from Rotherham all the way down to Bristol. You and I have worked together on a piece about missing files relating to that investigation. Do you think now, with all the evidence we've got about this being a nationwide issue, we're showing the map now of the 50 different towns and cities that GBNews produced 2 years ago. Do you think now there will be a chance, finally, to look at this on a national scale, as has always been required for this nationwide crisis?
Absolutely. It should have been done a long time ago, you know. We've sat and we've waited. We've never seen it what it is, which is organised crime. Maybe we've got a chance now of seeing proper justice, you know, and that's thanks to people that's campaigned, to Baroness Casey, you know, for telling the truth, and that truth's going to come out, you know.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, it's about putting this forward as an organised crime perspective, isn't it? For too long, I think people have looked at this issue and they've looked at it as sort of localised abuse in various different towns across the country, various sort of gangs operating in an isolated manner. But that's not the case, is it? This is a national issue with so many drug crime groups or sex crime groups working together and facilitating this sort of appalling exploitation all around the country. And we just don't know how many victims there are.
Absolutely. I don't think we know the true figure of how many victims there actually is, for a long, long time, just in my case, I've been waiting 24 years for this to come out because they were too busy labelling victims as the wrong ones. We've had it up to a certain point. We still see it today where attitudes towards victims is absolutely diabolical.
Elizabeth, I'm just hearing from our political editor, Christopher Hope, who's travelling with the Prime Minister now. He said that it's understood that this new national inquiry will coordinate with the other local inquiries which are already underway. So we will still get those localised inquiries that they announced in January. Elizabeth, what's your message to the Prime Minister tonight? He said in January that people calling for a national inquiry were jumping on a far-right bandwagon. Elizabeth, what's your message to Sir Keir Starmer?
My message to the Prime Minister is, for months and months and months, he's sat and literally let us beg for our justice. The only reason that he's doing this is because Baroness Casey has come out and told the truth. We're not far-right. We were just children. What was abused, it was never our fault. And for months and months, he's put that blame on us still and didn't want to recognise the actual extent of what we've been through.
Well, Elizabeth, it's always an absolute honour to speak with you. Thank you so much for coming on GB News. I'm sure we'll catch up later. And congratulations, you've been campaigning on this for decades and you've got it. Well, I'm going to speak to someone else now, also from Rotherham, because I'm very happy to say that I'm joined now by a Grooming Gang's campaigner, the whistleblower from Rotherham, Jane Senior. Jane, welcome to GB News. You also were a central part of that documentary 2 years ago, Grooming Gangs, Britain's Shame. Now, I think you are probably the most important person in this story because you were the whistleblower that exposed this scandal in Rotherham in 2010 to 2012. What's your reaction to this news tonight?
I think it's a bit bittersweet, Charlie. I'm so glad that it's happened and I'm so angry that we've had to wait so long and you know what victims, survivors, parents, whistleblowers have had to endure over a lot of years, but especially over the last 12 months, being vilified, called far-right, being called racist, just because we want answers and we just need that why. Why did this happen? And more importantly, why was nothing done about it? Why did those that had the power, the resources to actually do something, stop it, change it, did nothing? And as we sit here today, nobody in a high professional position has ever been held to account. And, I'm hoping that this inquiry actually goes far enough that we actually look at that as well.
Jane, I spoke to you this morning when Baroness Casey, some of her report was being leaked into the press. You told me, I love that woman. She's done us all right. Now, tell us what it was like in 2015 or when Baroness Casey was preparing to publish her report into Rotherham. You must be thinking when she was brought into this rapid audit, I'm going to get the same strong investigator that I had a decade ago to expose the rot in your town.
Absolutely. And as soon as they announced that Baroness Casey were looking at this, and I just thought, we just need to just sit back for a little bit now because she will do the right thing. And when Baroness Casey came into Rotherham, what she did is she absolutely left no stone unturned. She went, as deep as she needed to. She examined thousands of records. She spoke to victims, survivors, parents. I remember taking so many people to actually speak to her and to listen to some harrowing stories. And she did right by Rotherham. She shone a light, a very bright light into some very dark things that were happening. And things that were being, in a way, covered up. I'm going to use that. It's a strong word, but I'm going to use it.
It is a strong word, it's a strong term, but it's absolutely correct, isn't it? Because we've known about this issue across the country for so long. Now, in 2023, you and I spoke about this obviously extensively. We thought we might have a breakthrough because we had this issue with our reporting leading to the government launching a grooming gangs task force, the CSC task force. That made over 1,000 arrests in 2 years. It put this issue back on the map with the then Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, making that announcement. But at the time, actually, we were disappointed, weren't we? Because despite that announcement, this issue disappeared very quickly from the news headlines. This hasn't happened this time, has it? It's stuck around since January. Why do you think that is? And do you have confidence in this new announcement of a judge-led inquiry?
I think it's stuck around because what we've had is a lot of survivors that have had enough, a lot of parents that have had enough, professionals, whistleblowers, you know, and I think I've been kind of working in this area and safeguarding for maybe going on 30 years, and to actually be told that I'm far right for raising this issue kind of made me again think, do you know what, we've got to keep going, we've got to keep arguing, fighting. So I think if the inquiry comes with teeth and it comes with some criminal legislation at the back of it, then I think, you know, we at long last we may get some answers and kind of be able to not just move forward and look at what happened in the past, but significantly make a change for children now and our next generation of children. We'll never stop this happening, but if we can significantly reduce it, then we've done the right thing.
Jay Senior, in my opinion, the hero of Rotherham, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We'll be speaking to you later as well, I'm sure.